Please note that in this show you might hear graphic descriptions or language that may not be appropriate for everyone. Listener discretion advised. Welcome to Parentless Podcast. I am your host, Stephanie Relaford. On the show, we're going to be speaking with others who have experienced the loss of one or both of their parents or parental figures. As we heard in episode 12 with Louisa Velarde, being parentless is like an island, and I don't know how to swim. Thank you for being my life jacket. If you or someone you know is experiencing a suicidal crisis or emotional distress, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255.
A lighthouse is like a parent, and the light represents unconditional love. Thanks to that light, you know who you are and where you're going. If it disappears, it's like the light goes off. You no longer know who you are nor where you're going. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Monica Gomiz, and I'm originally from Spain. I was born and raised in Spain. And after traveling the world and living in 5 different countries, I currently live in Texas. I am a single mom of 2 young kids, and I am a bilingual conscious family coach. I help parents transform themselves and connect with their kids. And I specialize in expat or immigrant parents that are raising bicultural kids in a foreign country.
Can you tell me, why are we here and who is your person?
So we're here because I lost my mother when I was young. And that impacted my life in all kinds of levels. She was the one, and she was the only source of love that I had. And at the time, my dad wasn't around, he's still around, but I had a very different relationship with him. You know, talking like stereotypically, he was the authoritarian, disciplinarian kind of parent. And she was sort of like the soft, giving, forgiving, generous, loving, caring mom. And when she was gone, it was very hard for me because I didn't have that source of love and connection that any kid craves so much.
What was your mom's name?
My mom's name was Maria Angeles, which would be translated into something like Mary Angela.
That's a beautiful name. I love it.
Thank you.
So you were 15. How old was your mom?
My mom was 47, and I'm talking about she died in 1997. So I was 15, as I said, and I was in high school at the time. We just came back. The day I got to know about this, we just came back from our Easter holidays. And I was happy to see all of my friends. And, it was the springtime. It was April 1st, 1997. I got back home from school, and I could immediately say that something was wrong because my brother at the time, he was studying at a different town, and he was home in a weekday, and that was unusual. So I said, "What's going on?" And my dad just asked me to pack up some stuff and put things in a suitcase and some dressy clothes, and he said that we were going to go back to my aunt's house. And that's where we've been 2 days before, coming back from our Easter holidays. And I saw my mom 2 days before. And, you're a kid, you just obey, you do what you're told to do. And we packed up and we got in the car and started driving back to my aunt's house. And I remember we were in the highway and like going along the beautiful Mediterranean Sea. I was unease. I was feeling kind of icky, and I wanted to know what was happening. And I asked my dad, what's going on? Like, why are we going to Aunt Monse's house? And he said, Mom had an accident. And I started getting really anxious, and I wanted to know what kind of accident, how it happened, is she okay? And I actually started asking, is she okay? Is she okay? He was driving. I mean, at the time, I wish my dad had told me this while he was not driving, because the thing that I wanted the most was a hug. He was driving. He couldn't stop. We were on the highway. And he stayed quiet. When I asked the question, is she okay? He said nothing. So what I understood was that she was not okay. And I started crying and I started screaming. And I think I lost my voice on the way. Like, by the time we got to my aunt's house, I was exhausted, crying and screaming. My brother, he was sitting next to me in the back seat, and he took it in a very different way. I'm more of a, I have to express my feelings and take them out, like express them, like take them outside, like take them out of me. And he was sort of like internalizing everything. There's different ways of coping, right? So we got there and they took me out of the car. It was a traumatic experience, I have to say. I didn't know how it happened. I wasn't aware of how, but it was already traumatic enough to know that your mom is not around anymore.
How old was your brother?
My brother was 2 years younger.
How long of a drive was it to your aunt's house?
It was about a 3-hour plus.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And so you would have been asking those questions probably in the beginning, and then you had all of that time there. All right. So you get to your aunt's house, and then do you get more explanation?
I get more explanation, and I don't remember exactly if they told me the same day I got there or maybe the next day, but that was another shock. That was a big shock for a 15-year-old to swallow.
Mm-hmm. Did they give you more detail, or did they just still say she had an accident?
They told me exactly how it happened.
Oh, wow.
They did not say, they didn't give me details, but they told me how it happened.
Okay. Did you feel like, you being 15, did you feel like that was something you needed to know, or did you feel like it was too much information?
So when you're 15, and this is my interpretation now with my experience, my life experience and my knowledge and my trainings, right? You think that adults around in your life, they have the absolute truth and they know what's better for you. And I actually honestly think that they thought that was the best thing to do. It's hard to tell. When you're 15, you're not a kid anymore, but you're not a fully grown adult. And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is not black or white. There's families that, according to certain circumstances, tell the kid in a way that it's not, psychologically harmful. And then time later, they tell them the truth. That's totally fine too. I know that my family had my best interests at heart. And, they said the truth. My mom had died by suicide. And I think that the honesty is what I want to embrace here, because probably I wouldn't have liked to find out, years later that they lied to me or something. I think I was old enough. I wanted to know. Kids want to know the truth. And the key here, I think, is we would have to be able to tell the truth, always having in mind, how old the kid is. Everything has to be age appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, I'm just thinking about, families who may come across this situation and they might have to tell this information, just depending on the child and the age and all of that, how they decide to handle it.
I think it really depends. I mean, as I said, there's no black or white answer here. You know the kid. There's kids that handle things in a way. There's kids that they don't have those tools or resilience or self-control. I don't know. It really depends on the personality of the kid. And obviously, I think especially when a parent dies by suicide, obviously there's a lot of details there that they don't need to know.
So your time after finding this out, and I imagine being with your family and all of that, that's a big time for me that I remember, I think. And so what was your experience with the aftermath there with your family?
So I have a good memory about those days because I felt, this is usually what happens when a mom or a dad dies. The family comes close to you, they pamper you, usually in the best of the cases, right? They pamper you, it's like they put you all of this cotton pad around you, they are with you. But then after a little bit, maybe you agree with me, everybody goes back to their own lives. And in our case, we were not living in the same town or city. We were living 3 hours away, and we had no family around. I was lucky enough to have good friends, but yeah, it was the aftermath. The after having those 4 or 5 days with my family, it was hard because, again, my family, with their best of intentions, they asked me and my brother to not tell the truth about my mom's death, because of the social stigma. We were living in a really small town. And I guess they did it because they wanted to protect us. But that not necessarily was good for our mental health.
Right. So what were you telling people that happened?
So we were saying that she had a car accident, which is what usually people that want to hide suicide, they usually say it was a car accident. And I remember, there was this inner conflict inside, that's really confusing for a 15-year-old. It's like you're saying something, but it's not the truth. Therefore, you don't know how to behave. It was really hard for me to be authentic and really show my grief or my sadness for having lost my mother. It was hard. I don't know. I was really confused. I had no idea what to do with my emotions. And I started developing eating disorders. I had first anorexia and then bulimia. I started smoking cigarettes. And I was abusing alcohol, all of the things that are coping mechanisms that are at hand to a 15-year-old. I did it all. And I got into the wrong relationships, because when you don't have a healthy relationship with your own self, how are you going to be able to create and maintain healthy relationships with other people? So my intimate relationships were all messed up for many years. And I remember I was sabotaging the good ones, and it's been a learning process.
Did you, and you mentioned, that your family asking you to tell a different story and the psychological effects of that. Did you ever come to a point where, your brain probably always knew the difference, but did you ever, okay, well, she died in a car accident. Like you never really got, because when you tell a certain story, that kind of has a chance to become the story, even though it's not the story. I don't know if you ever had that.
You mean what? So what you're saying is that if I ever started telling myself that story?
Yeah, like obviously you knew that wasn't the story, but like from you saying it so much, if you ever had times where you had to be like, oh wait, that didn't happen. No. And I'll tell you something. I remember, and this is something that
you know, when you grow older and you put all of the puzzle pieces together. So recently I came to the realization that I'm mostly certain that my mom had a mental illness, because the months prior to her death, I couldn't recognize her. She had a different personality. My mom, as I said before, she was really giving, generous, you know, that people pleaser type of person, enabler, codependent kind of woman. And the months prior to her death, she had this, I don't know how to explain, like she had too much confidence. Like she was so, you could even see that she was feeling superior to other people, you know, like she was not my mom. And I suspect that she had a bipolar disorder, undiagnosed. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was something else, but it was similar to that. And maybe she had been in a depression for quite a long time. And then she had this manic episode. And then, you know, it's usually pretty normal to have a psychotic break when you are in the manic state. So that is the explanation that I give myself today.
That is definitely very difficult. And you know, the insight that age can give you is quite interesting as well.
Yes, obviously you don't perceive things the same way when you're 7 or when you are 15 or when you're 20. I actually have come across women that have lost their mom. And when you lose your mom when you're 20 or 30, they actually, it's like, it's harder for them to get over it for some reason, because they are used to be an adult and have their mom around, and they call her. Something happened. Oh, I'm going to call my mom. While, you know, when I lost my mom, for example, we didn't even have cell phones. And I remember when I got a cell phone, I remember thinking, like, going back to your previous question, the story that I was telling myself was the truth, but I just wanted my mom to be alive somewhere in the world, even if it was in China. I remember thinking, I wish my mom was in China. You know, I just would like her to be present and alive and just be able to tell her, I miss you, I love you, and tell her about my day, or, you know, I'm dating so-and-so. What do you think? You know, but when you're an adult, you have a different relationship. It's like they become your best friend, right? The way we grieve the loss of a parent, I think, is very different depending on the age.
Right. And that's a good point. It doesn't stop. And depending on the age and the different things happening, you know, it comes in different ways. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So I would like to know, kind of, you mentioned that, you know, what you would tell your mom. And that was kind of one of our questions. And that's why kind of the show was born. You know, we all have those questions that we want to call and ask mom, and we can't. But just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, is there anything else, like if you were able just to talk to your mom for a day or to be with her, kind of, how would that go for you?
That's a very good question. I don't know. I think what I would tell her today is not what I would have told her back then. You know, because when you're in the grief, and, you know, I think grief never really ends, like you say. But when you are in the early stages of grief, you're mad, you're sad, you're, you know, feeling really the loss in your heart. And I would probably, I would have asked her a lot of questions. But today, I would love to have a conversation as to, like, just to know, probably not to get answers, because I think we all want answers when the why me, you know. I think most of us that are listening to this interview went through that, right? Why did I have to lose my mom? Why did I lose my dad? Why me? Why so young? It's not fair. We all go through that. But I think instead of asking questions, I would just have a nice conversation, just plain normal conversation. I would tell her I'm okay. I would tell her that I truly believe she's still alive through me, because a lot of the things that she was doing to me as a mom, I'm actually doing to my own kids. And I talk to them about her, and that fills my heart. And I know that she gave me a lot. And thanks to that, I am also able to give my kids a lot.
You said she passed away on April 1st. When was her birthday?
Her birthday was November 19th.
On those days, do you do anything special to remember her? And especially with your kids, do you kind of talk about her on those days also?
Yes, I sometimes would light a candle, or I would buy flowers, and I would put it next to a picture that I have downstairs in the living room. But especially my daughter, my son, he's still too young. He's 4 years old, and he knows that grandma, he's now learning to understand about grandma and grandpa and all of that. He knows that my mom died. I don't know if he really knows or understands what that means, but my daughter does. She's 7, and she asks me questions sometimes, not necessarily on my mom's birthday or the anniversary of her death or something. But yeah, she asked me questions, how old your mom would be right now. And I replied to her, and sometimes I do something to her that my mom used to do, or, that used to make me laugh. And I do it to my daughter, and I say this, your grandma used to do this to me, ha ha ha, and whatever. So yeah. And at this age, especially 6, 7, that is when they are aware about death. And it's about finding the way to explain death, because they also develop that fear, right? And they don't really understand the purpose of, oh my gosh, I'm going to live my life and then I'm going to die. It's how do you support, how do you, guide the child to let them express their fears about death, obviously age appropriate. You sort of have to find the right words. But yeah, let them ask whatever they want and answer their question. I think it's very important, because I think previous generations, there was a lot of stigma about death. Stigma in the sense that it was like a taboo topic. And as I said before, I talked to people that have lost their mom. And a lot of times I heard that they were just not talking about her anymore. And it was like a taboo topic. They were not able to express or talk about, and I think that's traumatic in and of itself, that you're not able to talk about something, because that is part of the grieving process. If you want to overcome something, you have to have the space to talk about it, to write about it, because that's how you integrate it, right? When we have a very traumatic experience and there's a very emotional charged from our right side of the brain, and that's where the emotions are located. In order for us to integrate that very traumatic experience, we need to integrate it by using the left part of the brain. That's where the words reside. So if we write about it, if we talk about it, if we express it, we are actually integrating that event. And that is, releasing part of the big charge, emotional charge that caused in the first place.
Oh, I'm glad that you put it that way. You know, we talk about coping mechanisms and things, and a lot of people talk about journaling or going to therapy or doing things like that, but nobody's really ever put it into quite those words before. Now we know the concept of, okay, if we don't deal with it, then it's just going to be there and we're not going to, but really, thank you. That was a good explanation.
You're welcome. I just would like to add to what you just said that yes, it's important to do those things, but don't let all of those things to be, part of your 24 hours a day. Like, don't marinate on those feelings. Like, you have to grieve, but you have to give yourself the space to grieve. And then have the discipline to say, okay, I'm going to grieve for 30 minutes today, 30 minutes. And then I'm going to move on. Mm-hmm. I'm going to allow myself to take everything out, everything I need. But then I'm going to move on with my life. I have to move on. And that's, I think, another difficult thing to do, right?
Yeah. Do you use that technique today?
About my mom?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not so much about my mom. I think at this point, I'm 40 years old right now. So I think at this point I could say that I have healed, quite a bit about that, but I use it with other stuff. We all have stressors. We all have worries. We all have problems in life. So how do you have the self-control? How do you have the self-discipline to, okay, I will worry when I have to take action and do something about that problem. But I'm just not going to worry 24 hours a day when I'm in the shower or when I'm going to worry when I can take action and do something, even if it's this little. But I'm not going to worry when I'm in nature, taking a walk.
Mm-hmm. I laugh at that. We can't see me, but I tend to be, my husband makes fun of me. He says, "Oh, you're just waiting for the next thing to go wrong." I'm like, "Oh, well, that tree might fall on the house. Oh, well, something might happen."
Right.
So that's a very, very important piece of advice, I think, is just to kind of not worry all the time. Very good.
Yeah. We all have that mental pattern. Because when things don't go the way we expect, oh my gosh, something happened. Okay. And it's like you're training your mind to be worried for the next thing because you're afraid something else is going to go wrong. Right. And this is a habit. It's a pattern. But how do we break a pattern? Making it like we break it by making it conscious, know what your triggers are, and then making a different choice. For example, if you are afraid that you're going to have a car accident. I had a car accident 2 weeks ago, by the way. And I can tell you how fearful I was the very first few days. I had to go get a rental car. I had to get a new car. I had to drive through the same road where I had the accident. I'm taking my kids to school. I had to pass by the same place. And that was traumatic, I have to say. It was a big impact. That doesn't mean that it's never going to happen again. It may. And now every time I have a car close to me, I'm fearful that they're not going to respect the signs or whatever. But it's like, how do you become aware that your mind is trying to protect you from an external threat? And what do you do about it? Because everything is in my head right now. Right?
So is this what you do for your work? Kind of. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please consider sharing the show with a friend or rating and reviewing wherever you're listening right now. This will help get the word out about the show, and if one person can be helped by listening to someone's story here, that is amazing. If
If you would like to share your story with me, you can visit the website at www.backhomemedia.com/parentlesspodcast. You can also email me at parentlesspodcast@gmail.com. Another way to get a hold of me is to find me on Instagram or Facebook, also at Parentless Podcast. And lastly, if you're a phone person, please leave me a voicemail at 623-396-6069. If you love the show and you'd like to help with any special projects that might go on at Parentless Podcast or just be privy to some special extras, go ahead and visit patreon.com/Parentless Podcast. What do you think that she's doing now? Do you think she's watching down over you? What do you believe there?
So what I believe, well, let me just explain very briefly. I was raised Catholic and I did my first communion. I did the confirmation, but then right after the confirmation, my mom passed away and I stopped believing completely. And that's another thing that happens a lot, especially with teenagers. They stop believing in God because they think, this happened to me. It's unfair. Why God is so bad, right? But then through the years and with all of my healing and transformation, I became a very spiritual person. And I started paying attention to signs, like you're saying, and synchronicities and things. And when something that reminds me of her shows up in my life, I take it as a wink from the universe telling me, it's like my mom telling me, I am here with you, and I totally believe it. I think she's present. I think she is here, she is back being part of, we're all part of Source, right? Source energy. She's just transformed. She's not in a body anymore, but I feel her very close.
So you said when things show up, can you name a few instances?
Yes. Things, for example, I turn on the radio and you tell me how unusual it is to start listening to ABBA, the song Chiquitita? Chiquitita, na 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 na. So ABBA is I think they're from Norway. They were very, very famous and well known. There's a Spanish and an English version, but in the English version, you can also hear the word chiquitita, which means little one, little girl. And my mom used to sing me that.
And she, of course, sang the Spanish version. Did she?
Yes, yes, she was singing me the Spanish version, and oh my gosh, like it brings me to tears every time I. Especially when it's not me who is playing the song, that I just listen to that song. It reminds me of her automatically, or smells like food, or, whenever I make Spanish tortilla, which is not the tortilla from Mexico, but it's like an omelette made with potatoes and eggs. It's the kind of tapa that if you go to Spain, you're going to see everywhere. My mom used to make the best tortilla. Now I make it the same way. Mm-hmm. When I make it, it reminds me of her for sure. Her smell, which is a perfume from my own home country. Yeah, many things. And things that I do to my children, like interactions and jokes and things that I do to them really remind me of her as well.
Because that happened when you were 15. Do you ever feel, I don't know if stuck is the right word, or if you feel kind of back in the 15 time period a little bit, even though obviously you're not, you've moved on?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. And this is the reason why I do what I do, because so this happens especially when I go back to my country. So I left Spain for good in 2009, and I was about 26, if I remember well. But like going back to my hometown, seeing my old friends, seeing my family, you've changed. I have changed. I'm in a different country. I have a different life. I am a mom today. I was not a mom when I was back there. So every time I go back, it's like going back to the past. I had recently been to Spain back in August, and I saw all of my friends from high school, even friends from school. And you really see that, we're all aging, but we're pretty much the same, right? And dynamics change, I think. If you grow inside, also your relationships are going to reflect that back at you. And sometimes I have to confess that I feel like I have to be little Monica when I go to Spain, but I'm not. It's an identity thing because I'm not that Monica anymore. I don't think the same way. I'm like a different person today. It's an identity thing. I think that's a hard question to answer.
What would you say that your coping mechanisms are?
So I had a lot of coping mechanisms, like I mentioned before. Eating disorders, it's not so much about food. I have come to understand that a person that develops eating disorders, like, binge eating, anorexia, bulimia, anything real, having an unhealthy relationship with food is very much connected to the feeling of helplessness, feeling trapped, feeling like you have no control over what's happening in your life. There's teenagers that, there is that, the beauty of society, all of that interference, obviously that impacts your wanting to be thin and wanting to be beautiful and all of that. But that's only a part of it. I think what takes us to the eating disorder is feeling trapped, feeling like you can't do anything. You're suffering. You can't do anything to escape that situation. You don't know what to do with your feelings. So that was one of my coping mechanisms. And another one was smoking. And I smoked for about 15 years. And, back then in Spain, it was very normal. Everybody would smoke. But I remember thinking, I hate smoking. I hated it. I was a smoker, but I hated it. And I hated it because I felt like a slave. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I couldn't have a coffee or a glass of, wine without smoking. And again, those are the patterns and the habits that we create, right? It was hard. I felt like trapped there as well. Any addiction, any coping mechanism is going to make you feel hopeless and helpless and like you have no power. That is the addiction, or the coping mechanism is taking you over.
Do you have any what you would call positive coping mechanisms?
Yes, I would say my main coping mechanism is breath work.
What's your go-to? You're feeling stressed. You've got like 30 seconds. What's your go-to?
Right. So there's something called, I'm certified as with heart math. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
So basically it's clinical certification to help you against stress, anxiety, and all of those feelings, icky feelings that we don't want to feel. And there's a technique called I think it's called the heart log technique. And basically what you do, you can do this anywhere and anytime. It doesn't have to be for a long time. People think that meditation and breath work, you have to do that for 2 hours or 1 hour even, just for it to have any positive effect. And there's, it couldn't be further from the truth. You just need to come to the present moment, because when you are worried or stressed or anxious about something, you are anywhere. You're in the future or you're in the past, right? So what you need to do is to come to the present. What connects you instantly with the present moment is breathing. And this technique, I think it's called the heart log technique. There's 5 techniques that I learned. I'm not sure if I'm saying the right name. But basically in this one, you close your eyes and then you breathe in deeply. And then you imagine that you are breathing in through your heart. And you keep breathing. You're breathing through your heart, not through your nose. And then you imagine or you think about something that makes you feel that really happy state. Like, for example, I think about my kids a lot, and I think about their happy faces. And that automatically puts me in an elevated space. Just if you do that breathing through your heart, you are putting your heart and your mind in coherence. And that brings you to a stable state, to a peaceful, a calm state.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to draw a heart in my notes there that I made. And then I'm going to look it up, and then we'll definitely try it. That is awesome. Yeah. It's hard to kind of find something that works for you. And of course, different things work for everyone. But once someone has found something that works for them, I really love that they share with us. So thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to kind of move into what you're doing now, because I want to give you some time to talk about that. But so first, I don't feel like we touched on your mom too much. We have some. Is there anything else pertaining to your experience with losing your mom or life after that you want to bring up right now?
Yeah, I'd like to add that I think the behavioral part is obvious. You know, the addictions, the coping mechanisms really affected me at a physical level. But I think the worst part about losing my mom was that I had attachment issues. And I will explain what that means. I was, from the moment she died, I was hoping that people would love me. So I became someone who was always looking for external approval. It really affected me and my ability to have a nice relationship with a man.
Did you feel like your mom was the only person that loved you? And when she left, that you became unlovable?
I could say so, yes, because my relationship at the time with my dad was very difficult. Like, think about it. I had to become a mom pretty much overnight, take care of my brother. I hated to clean. I hated to cook. You know, I was old enough. Yes, my body was old enough to do all of those things. I was capable, but I didn't want to take care of anybody. I wanted to be taken care of. And I sort of became like a substitute mother. And that changed my relationship with my dad. My dad, with all of his unconsciousness, he sometimes used me as somebody to help him emotionally, you know, and also because I've always been into reading books about psychology and all of that, you know. And I also wanted my dad to be okay. I wanted to protect him. I wanted to, I used to think, if he's okay, I'm going to be okay. If I take care of him, he's going to be able to take care of me. You know, but when we are kids, we're not in a position to take care of anybody. We have to have that person that we go to and we feel protected. We feel heard. We feel validated. We feel accepted the way we are. And when my mom left, I had no one around me that would make me feel that way. My dad couldn't do it. You know, he was really just about, you know, working and paying bills. And, you know, I'm very grateful that he actually paid for my college and all of that. But emotionally, I was completely orphaned. And that's the reason why I wrote the book that I wrote. Because when I was in college, I remember I was looking to find the book that would help me, that would guide me to become a woman without my mom. There was no such a book.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in the bookstore trying to find a step-by-step process in order to define my own personality as a woman without having my mom around. And I would take 5 books back home, but none of them was the one that I wanted.
So if you don't find what you want, then what should you do about it?
You create
one.
Yay! Yes.
All right. So what's your book called?
My book is called, yeah, I have it here. It's called Becoming a Woman, a 7-step guide to creating a happy life and loving relationships when you don't have a role model.
Very
and you
nice.
Can find it, you can find it on Amazon.
Okay, I will put that show link there. And then I see on the front of your book, is that a flower?
That is how do you call it in English? Hydrangea?
Yeah, I think so. Does that have anything to do with your mom, or that's just a flower that you like?
So, oh my gosh, Steph, now that you asked me this question, I have the picture that I have, my favorite picture of my mom that is right now sitting in my living room. She has a hydrangea here in her, here, you know, in Spain, we do this a lot. Have you seen the Sevillana dresses and the flamenco dancers? Mm-hmm. They always put a flower here.
Yeah.
In the, how do you put it, you know, on top of their ears. So my mom has one, and I think it's the same flower, a different color, but the same flower. And the reason why I put a flower in front of the face of this woman is because when we lose a parent at a young age, you know, we lack that reflection telling us that allows us to know who we are. There's actually something that I wrote. It's really short. If you want, I can read it. It's in my book.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I say a lighthouse. So instead of, I put the metaphor of the lighthouse. A lighthouse is like a parent, and the light represents unconditional love. Thanks to that light, you know who you are and where you're going. If it disappears, it's like the light goes off. You no longer know who you are nor where you're going.
Wow.
What do you think about it?
Yeah.
Can you relate?
Yeah, I think so. I think I probably haven't had a lighthouse for quite a while. And so, yeah, definitely. I love that picture. I've heard someone else that I talked to said, you know, it's like an island. And so I've kind of borrowed that phrase quite a bit. And now a lighthouse also kind of goes with an island, all of those things. So I really love that. I'll probably pull that section and maybe put it at the very beginning of your interview. I like that.
Thank you. Yes.
So,
yeah, I was going to say there's always different ways of describing something. I love metaphors. I think they also help us to see things from a different perspective, right? And understand them better. Because many times we feel stuck in life because we keep seeing or telling the story the same way over and over and over again, right? And when we are able to step out or take a bird's view of the situation or seeing it from a different angle, that helps us heal. That helps us get unstuck.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take you to write your book?
Not a long time. Probably 4 or 5 months.
So you just took all of your experiences and you were able to put them down for other people. That is great.
Yeah, it's not a biography. It's, you know, I tell parts of my story, obviously to illustrate my point, but it's more of a self-awareness, self-discovery tool for women that are lacking that lighthouse that, you know, that is not allowing them. I mean, obviously that's not allowing them to know who they are. And when you don't know who you are, you know, it's really hard to make decisions in life.
Right.
It's really hard to pick a partner. It's really hard to know if this is right or wrong for you because you're not connected. You're not aware of who you are. So it's a self-discovery tool for women that feel rudderless, that feel lonely and loved, or emotionally orphaned, like I said before.
I like that. And I'm going to check out your book. I think I'm probably going to buy it. And, of course, I recommend everyone else getting it. So you can get it on Amazon, and I will add the link to the notes. Do you have any recommendations as far as books that you really enjoyed, found helpful, other podcasts that you've listened to that have helped you?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I don't know where to start from. I don't listen to podcasts as much as I would like to, but I'm a big reader. I love books, and I'm very old school. I like buying the book. I want to go back and forth and read whatever I want. I would like to underline or, just mark the parts that I like the most. I have read many books in my journey, but something that has really touched me recently or in the past few years has been The Awakened Family from Dr. Shefali Tsabari, Shefali, Shefali. She's actually one of my mentors. I recently got certified as a conscious parenting coach with her, and I admire her so much. She has truly changed the way I look at not only myself, but the way I parent my children. And that is part of the reason why I do what I do today. I want to help parents really break that generational trauma that we are passing on generations through generations. And I want to help them connect to their children, because what a kid really needs, or I would say the only thing that kid really cares about, is to feel seen and validated and accepted and connected to their parent.
Well, maybe I need a session from you. I don't know. I definitely would be interested in that. But if there's any of our listeners who are wanting to reach out to you and find more information about a session, how can they contact you, or what's the process to do that?
Yes, absolutely. So they can go to theintegratedfamily.co. And that's my website. They can schedule a call with me. They can send me a message, or they can also reach out on Facebook. They find me as Monica Gomiz Life Coach. And I would love to be in touch with anybody who wants to reach out and tell me their story. I would love to hear it.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, I mean, you do things virtually now. Or maybe
Yes.
always, I don't know. Were you always virtual?
I was not always virtual. I actually started my life coaching career coaching children, and they were coming. Well, I was actually holding workshops, hosting workshops, and I was doing, like crafts and coloring, and I was integrating that with stories for children to help them develop skills like how do you manage, icky emotions, or how do you get over a mistake, or how do you, I was helping them with self-confidence and self-esteem. But then sometime into the process, I realized that if I was not involving the parent in the equation, they were not getting as much benefit as I wanted. Right. Or I was expecting, because, yes, I'm helping the kid, but then the kid goes back home. And if the parent and I are not on the same page, they're going back to the same dynamics. And the family dynamic, it's very complex. Yes, it is. But so we have to get everybody on the same page.
Definitely going to check that out. And so my question to you is, so the metaphor, you like metaphors. So I know that, sometimes I've seen who's helping the tow truck? When the tow truck breaks down, who's helping that? So what do you do? Who do you go to fill yourself up in order for you to continue helping people as you do?
Thank you. That's an amazing question. We as humans have been conditioned to believe that there's always something out there that is going to fix everything for us, that is going to be the magic pill, that is going to help us go through and feel better about ourselves, right? But really, what I'm teaching all my clients is that there's nothing like you and what you have inside of you to get through life. And life is not to suffer or to survive. Life is to thrive. And when you know yourself, when you are connected to yourself, when you know what you need, because a lot of times we don't even know what we need. We just feel anxious and we want to scream at people, but we don't even know we're not aware of what is bringing us to that state, right? When you develop the self-awareness and when you really get in touch to what your needs are without expecting that somebody or something from the outside changes that or gives you what you need, then you know, okay, this is what I need. I'm going to provide this for myself. And then you feel whole. And then you feel connected. And yes, I'm not going to say that I don't ever feel stressed. I'm not that enlightened. For sure. There's, as I said, I had a car accident and I had to bring myself back to my baseline. And my baseline today, it's at a better place with all of the work that I've done. It's at a better place than years ago because now I'm more connected to myself. At least I feel more connected to myself.
Okay, so there's no magic pill, no place we can go, no natural springs that we can dip in that's going to change this. So we have to go inside, check your book out, and do the work.
Perfect. And I just wanted to say that whoever tells you otherwise, whoever is offering you something that is going to tell you that it's going to take all of your problems away, they're either trying to manipulate you to get your money, or they are trying to make you feel powerless, or they're trying to make you do something else, just so you know.
Thank you so much, Monica. I do feel like there's always more things that could be touched on and talked about. So I always bring it back to, is there anything else that you would like to tell us?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me. This has been fun. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, Steph. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Next time. Bye-bye.
Parentless Podcast is recorded in Phoenix, Arizona. Find us on social media and most major podcast platforms. Music provided by Colin Lococo and the Revolving Birds. Studio and editing provided by Back Home Media and Ian Relaford. Check out one of the many shows on our network. I am your host, Stephanie Relaford.